Hi, good morning, everyone. We're back here for another edition of Getting Started with Trustworthy Live. Who knows what could happen? Anything could happen, and it usually does. But we're happy to have you with us and looking forward to answering your questions. I'm Nat Robinson, founder and CEO of Trustworthy, and I'm joined today by Kyle Adamo, our head of product, and a special guest, Eric from our support team. Hey, Eric, how's it going? You can wave. It's okay. We'll do a little bit of introduction to Trustworthy and slides, and then Kyle will take over and show you the product, and we'll talk about some tips and tricks. The problem, the big thing, the big reason we wanted to create Trustworthy is that we were having this problem ourselves, and this idea of my stuff is all over the place is a phrase we heard again and again from customers who were looking for a solution. And it was along this lines of my stuff is all over the place. It's on all these different silos of information. This is kind of a generational problem, right? Didn't really exist 25, 30 years ago. But in the modern world today, we're bombarded by bits of information, or every time we need to do something, we have to create an account, and there's a username and password, and there's another website to remember, let alone all the property, financial, insurances, and other things we have to manage across our household, and all the related critical tasks, not just the bits of information, but everything else as well. Here you can see just a sampling of those kinds of things. Turns out this information overload problem has real costs, that families are spending more than 50 hours a year, and that's a pretty conservative guess, staying on top of household paperwork and all the related items. This number always blows me away. It goes up every year. Almost $1,300 in late fees, penalties, and costs to your credit score. If you're not on top of things, if something goes awry or you miss something, these insidious fees that slip in, and this is the average number that American families are paying. It was like 900 something the year before. It went up significantly. I expect it will go up again this year. And then the load, the mental load, the anxiety, the emotional component of like, oh, did I do that thing? Are we on top of this? Did someone take care of that? Lots of people reporting a mental load and strain and staying on top of household related tasks. Before we built Trustworthy, we talked to a lot of folks and did research, and we found out that everyone was kind of doing the same thing. Everyone was kind of DIYing for this problem and using whatever was at hand, file cabinets, fire safes, safety deposit boxes, and then of course all the digital equivalents from your mobile device to the photos on your mobile device folder, keeping stuff in there. All kinds of software, all the productivity tools, and they all kind of fell short in the same areas. They all started with a blank page. There was nothing to give you guidance or remind you of what you might put in there and what you might need for your life stage. It all required you to build it from scratch, and then you had to maintain it across the life of the system. There was no sort of help in keeping it up to date. All of those things that we looked at were essentially like a Google Doc or a Dropbox document were all essentially dumb containers, meaning you put information in and the document or whatever doesn't have any context for the information, doesn't understand what it is, and can't give you a return on that information, can't really do anything with it. They didn't handle what we call temporal sharing, meaning I don't necessarily want to share all the information with you right now or today. I might want to hold some of it back for the future, for a crisis, for when I pass away. This is an important component in family dynamics when considering estate transitions. So we wanted to cater to that. The free tools especially had questionable security, like what are you doing with my information? We really wanted to build a business that was pinned on or based around privacy and security. So that didn't seem like a good part of the equation. They didn't really offer service, and they just weren't purpose built, right? They were okay tools, they did an okay job. They just didn't really solve the problem for families. So that's why we said, look, we can help get families further, faster, Not every family should have to build this from scratch. That's madness. We're 70 years into the information age. Families should have a system that they can use and that does work on their behalf. The background behind all of this is sort of the societal impact that's making something like the family operating system more appropriate or more suitable today for families. This idea of digital transformation, everything going from analog to digital, that was really accelerated through the pandemic. Information now arrives quite often digital only, not digital first and with some kind of analog or paper backup, but digital only. I was at an event in New York and claiming expenses last week, and they're like, yeah, we don't print receipts anymore. You have to send this to your SMS or your email. There is no alternative. There's no paper version of this, which is great because we're saving paper, but that's a great example of digital transformation, right? This huge wealth transfer that's happening from generation to generation as baby boomers, as that generation retires and their estates transition to future generations over time. Huge impact on what's happening in society and the kind of technologies that are being built to handle this transition. Climate change is real. Well, I don't want to debate climate change, but the related number of disasters seem to be growing. Wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods. But you can't ignore the number of things that we see in the press. And I think that's causing a lot of families to think, like, are we prepared for a crisis? Are we prepared for something that we sort of know could happen, but we don't know when it could happen? And we have this great story on trustworthy.com about Jeremy, a trustworthy member who lost his house in the Altadena fire this year and lost everything. But fortunately, I had everything backed up at Trustworthy. That's a great 3-minute video. If you have time, check it out. It really talks about his journey through dealing with a crisis and then the recovery on the other side with Trustworthy helping out. And then, of course, we talked about mental health. Now, I think the number one concern for Americans in terms of medical issues, lots of folks are reporting anxiety, depression, and stress. So how do we remove stress around household management as a consideration? So we built the family operating system to respond to all of this. You can think of it as trusted digital assistant that helps you securely organize your information in an automated way, so you don't have to do much of the heavy lifting. It keeps it protected and available to you and to those who need it when they need it, and really allows you to take action around that information, all the related critical tasks and to-dos and renewal dates. We help you stay on top of those things. We'll see how that works in a second. Really across the spectrum here. The family IDs and identity and loyalty cards and credit cards and everything that you might think of as identity, financial, property, insurance, legal, family resource, a whole set of things that we've learned from families are the most important things they want to take stock of and make sure that they're organized and prepared. The big use cases, we sort of touched on this, but I want access and utility from our family information in the moment that I need it. What's the VIN number to the car? I need that right now. What are my kids' social security numbers or medical information? Someone's asking for that, or I need to fill out some forms. Oh, the bank is asking for proof of income. Where does that W-2 live and how do I get it to them quickly? All of those sort of day-to-day use cases are a big reason that we didn't want to build just an end-of-life system, because we knew that there's a day-to-day use case for Trustworthy as well. I think a lot of our members are surprised how often they refer to Trustworthy for just that one bit of information or maybe a few bits that they need to do to get something done. Of course, if I get hit by a bus, will my family be okay? Use case is real, is a big one. It is a primary consideration. Beyond our household, lots of families think about their parents or in-laws. How do I get their household in order? How do I get ahead of that inevitable estate transfer? And sometimes after loss, so we've already lost a loved one, but we need to now collect all the documents and give access to probate lawyers and trustees and guardians and other folks who need access to it. And increasingly, we get families who are looking for household equity, meaning this equilibrium across the household, across partners, so that both sides of the house know where the information is that they manage. We sort of see this bifurcation. You manage one set of things, I'll manage another set of things. So lots of interesting use cases across the family operating system. We have an amazing North American network of certified experts to help if you are time-starved and don't want to do this yourself, or maybe you live remotely from some loved ones, maybe some elders or some parents, and you want to help them get set up. These folks who come from these amazing organizations like the Photo Managers and the National Association of Senior Move Managers and American Association of Daily Money Managers and others, they already had careers before they became trustworthy certified experts from these great organizations with great professional ethics and standards. And we background check them. We send them through our certification to get them, so we got them in a situation where we felt comfortable putting them in front of our members. And they will go in and do anything from digitizing documents to helping you locate lost documents like a birth certificate or marriage certificate. They will help you build your system end to end if that's what you want. And that's a good point for me to hand over to Kyle, and we can get into showing you how the product works.
I'm going to start on the web app. We're going to look at the mobile app as well, and a lot of the different surfaces that Trustworthy touches to help you get organized. I've created an account called the Reynolds family. I'm going to play the role of David Reynolds, the account owner who opened this account. And I've done basically nothing in this account yet other than create the account. I've uploaded a profile photo for me, and I've set my MFA. So there was a task on here that was at the top that was like, set up your MFA. That's multi-factor authentication. You can do some exploring without setting that up, but eventually when you upload a file or you add something, some sort of PII, it's going to ask you to set up that MFA.
Kyle, why is that so important? Why do we put that right up front?
MFA is huge. It can help prevent sort of a large percentage of sort of account compromises that might happen through email or something like that. Having that additional layer of security really helps to protect your account and the data that's in here. It's usually something that you have in your hand, like a phone. It sends you SMS, or you can use an authenticator app, or you can use a hardware key like a YubiKey to get in. We can also add a layer on top of that for convenience called a biometric. So once you set up, say, an SMS, that can become tedious, always grabbing your phone. If it's on a trusted device, you can use a biometric, like on your MacBook, you'll have like a Touch ID or Face ID, these different things to help you get in a convenient way. But that MFA is a huge part of what we do. No account can have any PII in there without an MFA set up. That's a huge part of a security layer that we require.
Yeah, I think that's a good indication of we're probably going to get a question about security later on, but that's a good beginning to talk about how seriously we take security and privacy.
Yeah, we can go pretty deep on security if you guys want to get in there. But let's first talk about some of the things that you'll see as someone who's new to Trustworthy, has recently started an account. The first thing I want to point out is these quick start cards that you'll see here. These are important to help you discover some of the features in Trustworthy and are sort of the early first steps that you should be considering when getting up and running. And as you click on these, it'll launch different tours to let you know where to go to do those things. Like if I want to say add financial accounts, it's going to point you to the area that you should click on. When you click there, you'll sort of get your next tour that tells you what to do to add accounts, etc. These are pretty important, and you can approach them in any different order, but they're sort of ranked in a way that we think is important. Now I'm going to go against what I just said, and I want to talk about something like set up your household. And the reason I'm jumping into this is it covers a lot of ground across Trustworthy as far as different features I want to make sure that we tap into. So I'm going to start with this set up your household. And what this means is setting up the members of your direct family whose data you're going to be managing in Trustworthy. So this could be obviously yourself. You're already in here because you created the account. It could be a spouse or trusted loved one. It could be children. It could be, let's say you've got your mother's living with you, you could add her in here as well. There's sort of a lot of flexibility around setting up your household, but I'm going to start there, and I'll show you a couple different ways that we can create these family members. When I click on set up your household, it's going to point me to an area called family IDs. This is where I'll see myself in there. And then we'll see throughout Trustworthy, you'll see this idea of pre-populated tiles. These are tiles that are like recommendations of things that most households have that you should consider adding. And you'll see those throughout these categories. And these get created depending on what family members you add and what their ages are. We'll create these pre-populated tiles just so you're not staring at a blank screen wondering what should I put here. We're going to give you some recommendations. In this topic of adding different family members, let me jump into, I'm going to add my demonstration wife, Laura. I'm going to click on this add new family member, and let's put in Laura, and I want to touch on a couple things while I'm here. So one thing right away that I want to point out, as you're adding your family members, if this is someone that you want to invite into this Trustworthy account, remember when Nat was talking about sort of this bifurcation of responsibilities that we see in the household? We're trying to reduce that with Trustworthy. Invite people into your account who can help you get organized, or who have sort of knowledge of certain information sets, and they can help you get things going. And in many cases, that might be a spouse or partner or trusted loved one. I'm going to go right at this moment. There's many ways you can add a collaborator, and we'll get into all those, but there's a really quick and easy way right off the top where I can specify Laura's email address and I can invite her. By default, when you invite a family member, if I did nothing else here, it's going to invite Laura as what's called a full access collaborator, meaning when she accepts her invite, she's going to see everything in Trustworthy, which is a common scenario that we see. Most of our collaborators that get invited first off might be these full access collaborators, but you can also edit these permissions. There's different types of roles that people can have. Full access, that's someone like a spouse or trusted loved one. Partial access could be someone who you don't want to give access to everything, but you want to be more selective, maybe certain categories. Let's say you're inviting a CPA. You wouldn't add them as a family member, but there's other ways that you can add people like this. A better example with a family member might be an adult child who's away at university maybe, or at college, and they need access to certain things. You can do partial access, and then you can configure this access and get really selective down to exact categories, or you can get even more selective and pick really specific items within a category to give them access to. Okay, I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to leave Laura at a full access collaborator, and then I'll invite Laura into the account. It's effectively what happens here is Laura will get an email notification. She can accept this invite, and then she'll get access into the account. And you'll be able to see on your dashboard the things that she adds or the things that she edits. Let me get into a couple other ways. So you can see here, there's this thing that you'll see on your dashboard called your activity feed. You'll see things in here that get created when Laura logs in and adds things or edits things. You'll also see those updates here. I want to take this chance to talk about other ways to create family members, and I'll do that in conjunction with uploading data. One way, we've got this tool called Autopilot that's like this AI assistant that will help you curate your files and create the things in Trustworthy that are necessary to sort of organize your life. And one of those things is helping you create the people in your household. And we can do that if you're uploading things like driver's license or passports or things like that. So let me grab a couple examples here. There's a lot of ways you can send data into Trustworthy. I'm just going to drag and drop a couple files that I already have here, and then we'll get into some other examples. So you can drag files directly onto your dashboard, or you can also drag them into something called the inbox. Those two things are connected. This dashboard drop zone and the inbox are kind of one and the same. When I drop files here, it's going to open and put them in the inbox. And the inbox is a place where when you're in this phase of getting started with Trustworthy, you're often first finding all the files, and then you're uploading them to Trustworthy. You can just send them, like drop them onto your dashboard, or we'll look at other options like scanning from mobile or forwarding emails. You can just start to drop them. They'll land in your inbox, and you can go and file them later to the right spot. The inbox is kind of the staging area where you can just put stuff there, let AI look at these things and figure out what they are and where they should go. And then when you return, it'll have hints for you and instructions on where to put things just to help you get organized. So a couple things happen here. When these files land, we analyze every file. And I'll show you a bit more about this when we get into something more interesting like insurance or something like that. But we also recommend where to put these files and what action to take on each of these files. So for example, here's one where it's a driver's license for Laura. Laura already exists in our system. We've found Laura, and all that we're saying here is like, let's go over to Laura, open Laura's page, her family ID page, and now I want to move this file to the appropriate slot. So I have a slot here called driver's license, and essentially all I want to do is just drag this out of the inbox and drop it there. And a couple things happen here. It's going to find details in these files that it can read and understand and help you create things like reminders and help you populate data. Some things that you'll see, I'll drag some more things in, we'll fill out an entire page, like all the details for you. You can see this created a reminder. It's going to do the same with David. It's like you go open David's page, drag this file over. It's going to do this, what's called autofill, where it finds things and it's going to try and fill those things in for you. Always look for these autofills to help fill stuff in. And in some other cases, it can help you add net new items. So in this case, I uploaded Emily. She's my daughter who's away at college. It's telling me to add Emily. So what it's going to do is going to create a new family ID in my family IDs category for Emily. And then I'm going to drag this file over there. So when I say add, it's going to create a new page for Emily. And I'm going to drag this over. Okay. And it's going to help me autofill things. It's going to create reminders where possible. So now I've got a reminder to renew this driver's license as well. Let me close out of my inbox. I'm going to come back to my dashboard for a moment. So now that I've added files and I've started to create my family members, a couple of my onboarding tasks are gone now. It's like shrunk the list of available tasks that are remaining. Eventually, as you get through these, they'll disappear and you'll be just left with your activity feed showing you what's going on inside your account. So while we're in, let me go back to family IDs for a second and show you some of the things that happened here. Let me go into Laura, and I want to talk about a feature in Trustworthy we call secure links, and it's the ability to share files temporarily. It's not like inviting a collaborator. They don't need to create an account. They're not going to have permanent access to your data. But let's say you're going through a scenario in life where a common one that you might want to share your ID card would be like a mortgage renewal or refinance or something like that. Oftentimes in that phase, one of the first things that your broker is going to ask for is a copy of your ID. In those scenarios, actually, I'm going to do another thing. Let me upload the back of Laura's driver's license here too, if I've got it. Because often with any of these ID cards, you can do a front and back of IDs. I've just dragged the back in there. Sometimes when sharing, they want the front and back of these IDs. So what you can do to share a file temporarily, you just click on the preview of the file, regardless of whether it's an insurance policy or it's a driver's license. You can just click on the preview, and once you're in the preview, you can share this. And this is actually going to share both the front and back of this driver's license. And when I click share, what this is going to do, it's going to ask me, how long do you want to make this file available for? Let's say I'm working with my broker now. They're going to be done this today. I can say, let's create this secure link. And I've got a link that I can send to them over email, over text, however I want to send it. And I'm going to get an email notification once they click that link. And I'm going to get a notification when it expires. I know it's going to expire in 24 hours. If I know that they've done their job already, I can go and disable this link through my settings menu. There's a lot of different ways to use these, but this is just a incremental step up in protecting the privacy of your data, because this data will sort of disappear and vanish after 24 hours, as opposed to sort of the old way that you do this. And I'm guilty of this. I've done this lots before I worked for Trustworthy, which was snap a photo of my ID card, send it over email, where it's going to sit in my broker's inbox, probably indefinitely. So I like to do these secure links now, and what they get on the other end is a really easy way to view the file, to get the information they need, and then that link will no longer be available after a period. All right, while I'm on this dashboard, let's talk about reminders. You'll see that as I started to add data into Trustworthy, we scanned those items, we uncovered some reminders. You'll always see these reminders in your data. Some of my files I uploaded were old sample files, so they're already expired. But you'll get the idea that it's going to generate these reminders. It's going to circulate these via email with enough lead time to make sure you can take care of it. If it's something like a passport, you'll get more lead time than something like a loyalty card expiry or something like that. That's the gist of reminders. You're going to get them sent over email, but you can mark them complete inside this reminders area. Let's talk a bit about all the different ways that we can get data into Trustworthy. I just dragged, just for demonstration, I dragged some digital files that I already had on my computer, but that's not common. Oftentimes, some people have thumb drives or a file storage or a cloud drive that they want to move files to, but sometimes things are paper-based and you need to digitize them, or they're sitting in your email. Email is a great one to talk about right now. And what I want to do is jump over to an email that actually, before I do that, let me show you how you get set up with this. Under your settings menu, so click your account menu, go to settings. There's an option here called email to inbox. You'll also see a card on your dashboard if you're brand new and haven't done this yet, recommending that you check this out. This email address is unique to your account, and any files or any emails that you send that have attachments, whether they be PNGs or PDFs, if there's an attachment on that email and you send it to this address, it's going to land inside your Trustworthy inbox and it's going to get analyzed, and we're going to come up with recommendations as to what to do with it. This is not an email address that's easy to remember. So what I recommend people do is copy that email address and go into something, whatever your contact manager is. Let's say it's Google Contacts, or it could be Outlook Contacts or Apple Contacts. Create a contact for it. You can call it, Trustworthy Inbox. Paste the email address in there and save it. Okay, that'll make it available to your email clients, whether you're on a phone or whether you're on desktop. You can use this contact to make it easy to send items to. So I've got this, I've previously set up this contact. So I've got an email sitting here in my inbox that has a couple life insurance policies on it, one for me and one for Laura. Effectively, what you want to do here when you come across these emails is you can forward them and you can choose your inbox address. I've created one for this specific for this webinar, and then I can just send it. Okay, what happens after a few moments, it's going to pop into my inbox here, and it's going to figure out what to do with these files and help me create the spaces to store these files and fill out these profiles. It's a great way for you to, I use this all the time, just forwarding emails that have attachments that come through. If you want to get fancy and you're a power user of things like Gmail or iCloud Mail or whatever, you can set up rules that can auto forward things based on is there an attachment? Did it come from specific addresses? You can sort of put this on autopilot if you want. But you'll see what's happened here is it's dropped these files into the inbox. In a moment, it's going to analyze these and figure out what to do with them and what they are. And this is a really popular way that people get access to, or people get files into Trustworthy. You can see a couple things have happened here. Is it's interpreted, it's read through this file, it knows a lot about it. It's written a brief summary. This will follow this file around. You'll always be able to access summaries and these details. It's going to recommend improved file names to improve searchability and clarity, because you're not necessarily the only person who's going to be in here. So having clearly named things is important. My lawyer tends to send me files that are called sent from Xerox. That's not the best file name, so it'll recommend a better file name for that to make it more searchable. And if you want to change the file name here, you can just accept. Okay, but the more important thing here is it knows what this is. It knows that because it analyzed this file and my current data, it knows it's never seen this file. We don't have this insurance policy covered in my insurance category, so it's saying you should add this. And when I add, it creates a page for it. And then I can just move this file over and it's going to populate Everything here, it's going to link it up to covered members. It's going to create a reminder where possible. So I'll accept that. So it goes in and gets some details about the provider, including sort of where you can make claims and whatnot, and phone numbers. It's got my policy. It's got the file here. It's linked it up to covered members, and it created a reminder to renew this. You can, with all these nicknames, you can also edit them or shorten them. In this case, it was pretty verbose in its recommendation. And these nicknames are what, when you go into a given category, these nicknames are what show up here. So they're pretty important to like quickly scan through items to understand what they are. And using like a family member's name in these nicknames is useful if you're tracking data for many people. And you can see it's done the same for the next file. So email to inbox, huge part of this. It's hugely important to getting data in. Let me jump into one other option while we're talking about getting files in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring, actually, let me minimize. And then let me bring my mobile device over so we can see it. So download the app. If you haven't already, download the app on iOS or Android. It's a huge part of maintaining your data in Trustworthy and digitizing things that are currently paper copies and things like that. So as things come in from the mail, you can scan these items. As you're going through your filing cabinet, you can scan these items to get them into Trustworthy. I'll show you how that works here. So I've logged into my mobile app. Again, you'll see some of these getting started cards here as well. You'll see your activity feed here as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this plus button. I think I have a mouse hooked up to this, just to point to it. This plus button down at the bottom, this will allow me to open up my scanner. You can browse files on your machine. You can take photos, but the scanner is a good thing for documents. So I've got a auto insurance declaration page here. What I'm going to do is just point at this file and scan it. Then I'm going to save, click the save button. And what it does, it sends it up to my inbox. I can file it right on the mobile device and pick where I want it to go. You can see it also snap into place on the web app in the background. So it's going to do the same steps where it's going to analyze this and come up with a recommendation as to what to do with it. And it's going to discover that this is a net new insurance policy and help me create a spot for this item. Okay, it should snap into place here on web in the mobile app in a second. But you can see that it's also, giving me details. It's still working on the details, it looks like. Let me go back to the web app where we see this file, and you can see that it's found that this is a auto insurance policy, just like it did with the life insurance. It knows that we've never seen this before. It's going to create a space to track this policy. And just like I did with life, I can just drag it over to the policy block, and it's going to help me populate this item. If I had my cars in here already, it would have linked those cars up as well under covered vehicles. I didn't have my cars yet. But speaking of cars, let's talk about a great way to get your cars into the system. I like to use vehicle registration cards. They contain a lot of data. So if you've got a vehicle registration, you can simply drag that into our system or take a photo of it or scan it. It's going to send it into Trustworthy, and it's going to help me create a vehicle out of this in my property category. Properties where we have real estate, vehicles, heirlooms, valuables, all sorts of things like that. So you can see it's analyzed this card. It said, hey, we've never seen this before. You should add a new vehicle to your property category, and it gives me an add button. And just like I have before, there's actually a slot for a registration card here. And when I drop that in, it's going to populate the majority of this this page for me. So I can click accept. It's going to fill in everything. It's going to link it up to me. It's going to capture things like my VIN, etc. I've got a vehicle registration reminder as well. All that stuff is set up. Okay. And what I like about mobile as well is, besides the ability to scan stuff and get it in there digitally, it's a great tool for getting access to data when you're on the run. Nat mentioned this, accessing something like the VIN number. It's one of those things where you're never going to know that off by heart, and it comes up from time to time in life where you're like, oh, I need the VIN for the car. I was on line at the DMV, got to the front of the line finally, and they needed my VIN number, which I didn't know. I didn't have a paper version, but I could look it up quickly. So I love the search on mobile. So at the top of your screen is the search bar. It's available on the home screen and on the browse tab or the browse screen as well. And effectively, you can type in here what you're looking for. It could be the name of the vehicle, or you can even say things like, I'm actually going to use voice VIN number. Oh, that's nice. It didn't want to do that for me. Let me see if. Oh, there's my vehicle. It takes a while sometimes for the data to get indexed by search. So that could be why I didn't find that immediately. But I was able to open up that Toyota Sienna, and I can see my VIN number on here. So if I needed to use this in any capacity, whether it's VIN number or you need sort of your passport number or whatever, you can find all that data just by searching for it inside Trustworthy. All right, speaking of search, one of the other things that's sort of neat about the search capacity is it can return specific data that you're commonly need to copy or use to fill in forms. Let's say I'll do driver's license. You can see that in some cases, there's some data that's in the search results made available just for a single click to copy it. It could be your driver's license number. It could be your policy number. It could be a VIN number on a vehicle or a plate number. All those things can be exposed right here on search, so you don't have to click all the way through and browse to find it. So you can just copy it to your clipboard. All right, let's talk about one other way. So the phone is great for capturing digital or physical documents and digitizing them and sending them into your inbox. We do also have a partnership with Ricoh ScanSnap. And if you have a physical desktop scanner or you're in the market for one, the ScanSnap scanners are great. They have this capability to like email data directly into Trustworthy. Actually, let me see if I can figure out a way to show this to you. Let's do this. I'm going to use my phone camera. So see this ScanSnap here? You can configure different profiles to do different tasks. I've got a profile in here just specific for this webinar. I've got a file in here. And I'm just going to click scan. And what this is going to do is it's going to scan this file and it's going to automatically email it to Trustworthy. And in a few moments, it's going to show up in my inbox here. That was a utility receipt or a utility bill. And it's going to send it to Trustworthy. It's going to show up in here. It's going to analyze it. The ScanSnap and these desktop scanners, if you have really meaty documents that are like dozens of pages or 30 pages or something like that, they're a better bet, more faster, more effective for digitizing things really quickly. So if you have a trust or a will or something that's long, you can put it through the scanner. In a few seconds, it'll scan all these pages. It'll bundle it into a PDF and forward it on to Trustworthy. So it's a really great way to get stuff in as well. All right, so a couple other ways to get data in your finance category. This is a place where you can store everything from your bank accounts, savings accounts, checking accounts, credit cards, investment accounts, loans, et cetera, all those things can be stored in here. You can create them manually just by clicking into either these pre-populated tiles or clicking add. You can also import from Plaid. This is something that a lot of people do. Plaid will let you connect to your different institutions that you work with. And from there, it's like an intermediary that, you know, has all the hooks built into these institutions. You've probably used Plaid. You may not even know you've used it in the past. It gets used all the time for anything that interacts with your banks. And what it'll do is help to pre-pop or to it'll help to populate your different bank accounts in here and pull in the sort of account data and basically stub them out so you've got the profiles in there. You can also do things like upload bank statements if you happen to have a bank statement and you sent it into Trustworthy, it's going to read that bank statement and it's going to help you create these areas, these tiles inside Trustworthy where you're going to store those items. So let me do this. This will touch on another aspect that I think is pretty important, which is this aspect of folders within these different tiles. So what it's done is it's analyzed this. It said, hey, we've never seen this bank account or the savings account. You should add it. When I add it, I want to move this statement there, but there's no like block on the page for statements. But what you can do on any page in Trustworthy, there's a section called Files, and you can drop stuff there. Or in many cases, there's different types of files that you want to store related to whether it's a bank account or maybe it's a property. You can create these custom folders. We see this used lots in things like a real estate property where you might have a folder for closing docs, a folder for utility receipt or utility bills, one for inspections, contractor receipts for different repairs and renovations you're doing. I might do something called statements. And then I can drag this file to the statements area and put it there. Okay. And it's also, even if you drag stuff there, because it knows, there's some blank fields on this page, we know a bit of data about this savings account. It's going to help you autofill these items as well. And I can fill stuff in and it's going to populate all the details about this bank account for me. Okay. So do keep in mind, you have no limit to how many folders you can create here. This is commonly used pretty heavily in our property category. And property category is kind of a good place to talk about contacts as well. So another easy way to get data into Trustworthy is through contacts. And contacts can be linked to anything in Trustworthy. They can be linked to a property. Let me create a home. I'm just going to create one manually here. And oftentimes what we see people do on a home is they'll create service and utilities in here, and these can be contacts. And they come out of your contacts category. You can add them on the fly here, or you can import contacts from other areas. You can export your contacts that you'd like to get into Trustworthy from your Google Contacts. You can do it from your iPhone as well, or your Android. Let me go over there, go back into Trustworthy, get out of my scan. I'm going to go to my browse. I'm going to go into contacts. And what I'm going to do is import from device. And from here, I can choose the contacts that I want to add into Trustworthy. And it can pull them in from my device. I can export them as well from Google Contacts if I have contacts in here, or Apple Contacts. Essentially, what you're trying to do is get these into a vCard format, or VCF file is the other type. And when you export these, it'll create a file that you can then bring over to Trustworthy to import. I like doing it from my device as well. So those ones that I brought in from my device are here. I can bring them in all other areas. I can add contacts on the fly. One thing to think about when you're adding contacts, a lot of contacts are people that have first names and last names, but you also have contacts that are companies. And when in the case of a company, you might not have a first name, last name. So in that case, flag it as a company, and you can call this whatever it might be. You can put in contact info, you can put in websites and emails, you can save it. Once you've got contacts in there, they can be linked all over the place. If you've got, say, a banker that you work with and you want to link them up to your bank account, under linked contacts, you can pick, that person and link them up. So you've got their contact info here. If it's in something like a property, we've got this home, and I wanted to add them as a service utility provider, I can do that and pick them here. If they're not in here, I can add them on the fly and just get them all linked up here. So you've got this sort of full picture of your property. It could be everything from utilities, it could be property managers, it could be contractors that you commonly work with, you name it, all that stuff could be tracked in here. All right, let's take a pause for a minute because I went crazy there and talked for a long time. There's probably a bunch of questions.
Yeah, look, we do have some great questions. Looks like that file might have dropped into your inbox from ScanSnap.
Sure did. Yeah, there's my file. And what it did here as well was interesting. It knows that this is a utility bill and it applies to a property that's not in Trustworthy. So it's given me this opportunity to add. So it's going to create a property in Trustworthy. And just like I did previously, there's not a specific slot to put this, but I'm going to create a new folder in here, and we'll call this I'm actually based in Canada, or in Ontario, we'd call these hydro bills. It's a very Ontario thing. Okay, I could drop it in there. If it's got data that it can autofill, it's going to pull that in and help me autofill it as well. But that's kind of you saw the ScanSnap go full circle from the scan to landing in my inbox, then moving to the right spot. Let's talk about some of the questions that have come in as well.
Yeah, Kyle, we've got a great one from Atwell. Why is there no section? And maybe we do two things, like here's the workaround, and then here's what's coming up next. Why is there no section for health information, prescriptions, medical records, those kinds of things? I can tell you how I deal with that today, but I think we have a pretty common workaround for what's happening today, and then maybe talk about what's coming soon.
Yeah, so the typical, as you might imagine, this is probably one of our top feature requests now. It used to be Android app, then we launched that, now it's this. So we don't have that category yet. It'll be coming soon, and we'll talk about that in a second. The workaround that's most common that I see in place, let's call it innovation. Innovation that customers have created, and it's typically our recommendation, is what I'll do is go into family IDs, and whoever's medical file this is for, I'll go into their family ID, and then I'll use that capacity of creating folders to store specific things. So I might have a folder called prescriptions. Maybe I'm going to have another folder called lab results, et cetera, et cetera. And then what we can do is we can bring these files in here. They'll be searchable through your Trustworthy account, so they're easy to find at any point. But this is the typical workaround that we see people go after. It works. Where we're going to go with this in the future is we're working on a sort of a new iteration of Trustworthy that's more fully automated and reacts to the data that you're putting in there. So if you moved in a scan result, what it's going to do is create a category for you automatically called health, and it's going to file that for you there. And it can have sections for, similar to what I put in there. It could be allergies, it could be scan results, it could be diagnoses, prescriptions, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll see that hopefully sort of in the new year as we start to migrate people and roll it out to customers. If you're putting data into family IDs, into these subfolders, we're going to work on sort of a migration path for you to get stuff recategorized properly into this new health category. But we know it's a gap, and it's not the only category that we're anxious about. There's a lot of people have asked about employment category.
Travel is another one.
Travel.
People,
yeah.
These are down the totem pole a bit, but these are definitely ones that we're considering. The approach we're taking is this normalized organization. These are the categories that almost every family wants. 90+%. Medical or health is a big missing one. But as Kyle said, we're moving into a much more dynamic future for categories where they act more like tags. You can create your own categories if you want to. You can rename the ones we auto-assign to the information. We're excited to really bring this more flexible version to you. All right, let's get through these questions. But that's a great one. David asks, does the Trustworthy app reside on my laptop?
It does not. It is in the cloud, so to speak. So it's a secure vault. It's running in your browser. The data is secured in our cloud, encrypted, tokenized. Tokenized is sort of a key aspect of our security posture. That's where we take anything that's PII oriented and we replace it in our database with arbitrary string of characters. And then we take that data in isolation and store it in a different database in a different network environment, disassociated from anything else, just to keep all the pieces of the puzzle separated. The only way for you to make that puzzle come back together is through logging in to Trustworthy. So one day, I'm not making any promises. We've talked about having like a native app that resides on your machine, but that's longer ways away. So it's in the cloud. That means it's accessible anywhere. Anybody who you invite into Trustworthy just needs a browser to be able to get there, and probably a device for MFA.
Yeah. Now, if you have the app, you can install the app on iOS or Android. That's an installable component, but the data still lives in the cloud. Michael asks, is there a way to back up all the data we've stored in Trustworthy if we are offline or off the web app, or the web app is unavailable?
Right. This actually covers a couple key topics, and most of it will be a discussion about where we're going. In short, you can export your data, of course, through your settings menu. There's an export data function. This is exporting the files that you've uploaded. We've got a lot of requests in our backlog for like a printable binder effectively. So like a top sheet, an organized table of contents, all the data contained within. It's something that we're going to be working on in the future as we move towards this next version. But also touching on this idea of an offline version, this has been a topic that's come up a lot recently. And as we're building out this next iteration of Trustworthy, it's something that we're keeping top of mind is, your data might be so big, it might be impractical to store everything offline on your mobile app. But let's say there's like 25 items that I must have if the power's out, or I don't have internet or something like that, or I'm going to be traveling to a foreign country and I don't know what the service is going to be like. We're going to be working on a way to bundle things to take them offline. So like ID cards and credit cards and things like that. For now, export is what we've got. Our uptime and availability is 100% or as close to it as you can be. So we're always available, but the question is valid. It's something that we need to work on, and to have an offline version of the app for those situations.
Yeah, obviously we do backups for you, but we have failover data centers. We have redundancy built into the system so that your information is as available as it can be. But I still get that people want to have a local copy, and that's something that we're ongoingly considering the implications of that. It has some security implications as well, obviously. David asks, I forgot my password to log into my Trustworthy account and I couldn't recover it. David, the best way we'd love to help you with this problem. Sorry, you're experiencing a difficulty, but please email support@trustworthy.com and we can look into your specific case and why that's happening.
Yeah, a couple things top of mind on that one. If you've used a social login, like login with Google or login with Apple, they're the ones that manage your password. You would have to log in with those to gain access to Trustworthy. The other option is potentially, yeah, I think that's probably it. Eric can work with you to figure out how to get you back in and make sure that you can gain access to your account. And we can look up your account to see if you used one of those social logins.
Yeah. David also asks, I think we've sort of covered this. Where does my data for my Trustworthy account exist? Yes, it's in the cloud, backed up and fully redundant. Michael asks, what are the limitations of the free version of Trustworthy? That's a good question.
Yeah, so this is the free version allows you to create 12 items. So an item being what I've been referring to as tiles. So if you look at these rectangles that you see on each of these pages, you can create up to 12 of these. That'll cover off a couple family members, some insurance policies, homes, and things like that. But it's not the free run of everything. Within any one of these tiles, you can upload a bunch of data, but we're limiting you at this point to the number of tiles that you can get in there, just so you can make sure that you get to explore all the different areas of Trustworthy and get a sense of how it might work before you tap into or look into one of the upgraded plans that'll give you unlimited tiles.
So there's no limit on the number of files you can upload within each of those tiles or the file sizes. We don't constrain you on disk space. So you could do a lot. You could upload all your family IDs, all your pets, all the related files. There's no limitation on that. Or you could, do a sampling across, really, as Carl said, to get a sense of how it all works and hangs together before you decide it's a fit for your family. And you can use it, it's not time-based. You can use that free plan forever, indefinitely. So for some folks with simpler systems, that actually might be enough room to do all the things you want to do.
Yeah, and we'll see some people who will use the family IDs category and just store their cards, and they start there and they run like that for a while before they upgrade to get all these other things in place. One other thing I just want to point out, because we haven't really talked about this yet, is we don't have that much time. Collaboration. I've created my own account here as David Reynolds. Let's say I reach out to my mother-in-law and I'm like, you should create a Trustworthy account too. You guys should get organized on Trustworthy. Invite me as a collaborator and I can help you set up your account. What that means is mother-in-law creates her own Trustworthy account. She invites David Reynolds as a collaborator. And then once I accept that invite, now I have this capability to, actually, I'm not in the account right now. If you'd see an arrow next to your name, it'll allow you to switch accounts and switch into mom's account and back and forth between these accounts. You can use a single login and be a collaborator on many accounts. And we have these, Nat had mentioned these Trustworthy certified experts. They're like consultants that can work with our clients to get them up and running. They'll have like 6 or 7 different clients that they can bounce back and forth between those accounts. So do look under, there is a capability to have a single login and just switch between your account, your mom's account, your sister's account, assuming they've invited you as a collaborator.
Yeah, this is a great way also to get information into Trustworthy. You don't have to do it all yourself. Your partner or spouse could do some of it, the side of the house that they manage. Your accountant, obviously, your wealth manager, your estate planning attorney, they probably have some of the work product that they've done for you. They can upload it. Like my accountant was happy to upload all my tax returns for the last 10 years, because that meant every time I need one, I don't go ask him for it. It's less work for him. And he could just say, yeah, that's all in your Trustworthy account. Remember when I uploaded that for you. So it's a great way to sort of many hands make for light work. Outsource the uploading if you want to do that, if you have those professionals, or if you have folks in your ecosystem that can do that for you. A couple more questions. Joe asks, will the seminar be available after it's completed? Yes, we're recording this. We'll make it available on YouTube probably. David asks, if a collaborator invitation does not result in their reply, does that invitation expire?
It does. We retry. I forget the exact logic, but we will retry and send it again to them. I think 2 weeks or like a week later, and then 2 weeks later, and then eventually it does expire. But if you want to like re-invite them, for example, you can go to your account menu, manage access, and you'll have like a resend option here to resend the invite as well. Or if you need to cancel it for whatever reason, you sent it to their email that they don't use anymore by accident, you can cancel that invitation. You can resend it.
Yep. Atwell asks, how many paid customers do you currently have? How viable are you? You've been around for 5 years and have good reviews, but just curious before I invest a ton of time uploading everything. That's a fair question. We have been around for 5 years, actually a little bit longer, since 2019, technically. We are very well funded by some amazing backers who believe in the vision. That vision is essentially that every family will have some kind of trusted digital assistant within the next 5 years to take care of all the paperwork and related tasks across the household. That's a vision that lots of investors want to be part of. We get a lot of inbound interest every day from investors across financial services, insurance, legal, and then typical technology investors and other technology companies. If we need to raise money, we can raise money to keep going. We don't disclose revenue, but we have over 30,000 households on the platform today and growing quickly. We have a number of strategic partnerships that are kicking in the next 12 months with very large distribution networks. So that's about as much as I can share. But we intend to be here for a very long time, and we're building to be, a lifelong partner to families. We all trustworthy with our own information, and that's really, we've built a system that we have staked our own household information on. And frankly, I'd be very upset and lost. I wouldn't know what to do if I had to give up my trustworthy account. So we're building for a big future and want to be here and around for lifetimes. So hopefully that answers your question. I think that's all the questions we have time for. Happy to answer more. If you have more questions, please email support@trustworthy.com, and those questions will get routed to us. Hopefully this was a good introduction to show you what Trustworthy can do. We have a big release coming out starting Q4 this year. It's so big, we're calling it V2. And a really amazing set of capabilities for end-to-end automation to help do this for you. Generative AI capabilities to help you generate things that you may not have yet. Recommendations, looking across your system to optimize your system for you and say, hey, it looks like there's a gap here. Would you like to fill a gap? Maybe you don't have an estate plan yet. Maybe you need life insurance. Maybe you need an investment account for a 529 for your kids. Whatever it is, we're going to help you optimize the system and then ongoingly optimize the things you do have and say, hey, look, it looks like you could be paying a little bit too much for this mortgage. Would you like to save money across the life of this mortgage, across the whole system? So that's where we're headed. You're going to see the beginnings of that this year and more coming early next year. Really incredible set of new functionality coming up that we're excited to tell you about as soon as it lands. I've already seen the alphas and betas of this stuff, and I'm blown away and excited to have it. So I can't wait to get it in your hands as well. Thanks for joining today. It was a pleasure chatting with you and answering your questions. Hopefully this was helpful. Let us know if you have more, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.